Hi, welcome to the Gemara on Yud Bet Amud Bet. This is a review video, and we're starting from the words Vayomer Hamelech Chachamim. We're continuing to darshan out each part of the beginning of Megillah Esther. Vayomer Hamelech Chachamim. This is when Achashverosh asks people what to do about Vashti. Man Chachamim. Who are these Chachamim that Achashverosh questioned? Rabbanan. These are the rabbis, Yodei Ha'itim, the knowers of moments or of time, Sheyodin la'aber shanim v'likvoa chodoshim, who know how to create new years or decide whether a year is a leap year and fix the months. This relates to something we've talked about earlier, that before the time of the fixed calendar, this was a job that the Chachamim had to do to fix the calendar. So this is why they were called Chachamim. Amar lahu. So he said to them, Dainu ali, judge her for me. That's what Achashverosh said to the Chachamim. Amru, they said, Heichin avid. What are we going to do? How should we behave? Nemalei, let's say to him, Katla, kill her. Lamachar pasik la chamre ubai la minan. Then if we do that tomorrow, pasik chamra, his wine will stop from him, meaning he'll sober up. Ubai laminan, and he'll demand her from us. He won't kind of remember how angry he was, and he'll want her back. Nemalei, let's say to him, Shavka, let her go. Kamizalzel b'malchuta. But she was mizalzel b'malchut, she insulted the kingship, meaning that's not a good option either. If we say, oh, just let her go, the king will be angry at us that we don't care that she was so disrespectful to him. So they have sort of no good option. Amrulo, so they said to him, to Achashverosh, Miyom shecharav beit hamikdash v'galinu me'aratzenu, nitzla etza mimenu. From the day that our Beit HaMikdash was destroyed and we were exiled from our land, good advice has been taken away from us. We no longer have the capacity to consult the way we once did. And we can no longer judge cases of capital offenses. Zil agabe Ammon and Moab. Go to Ammon and Moab, to other nations. Diyativ b'durchtayu kechamra diyativ al durdai. Who are sitting in their locations like wine sits on its sediment, meaning they've been there for a long time, like fine aged wine. When people are sent away from their place, Rashi says you get distracted, you're not able to focus when you're in exile. So these are people who've stayed in their place forever, so they'll be able to focus. V'tama amrule, and the reason they said this to him, dichtiv, it's because it's written, Shanan Moav mini'urav v'shoketu al shmarav v'lo hurak mikli al kli v'gola lo halach al ken amad ta'amo bo v'reicho lo namer. That's the end of the pasuk. The pasuk in Yirmiyahu, which basically means, Moab always stays good. It stays quiet again on its sediment. It doesn't get poured from one kli to the other or sent from one kli to the other. It's always sort of just consistently in place, and so its tam and reach, its taste and smell, stays with it always, because it doesn't go into exile. Moving on to the next part of Megillah Esther, miyad, immediately, meaning that this is the pasuk that immediately follows. V'hakarov elav karshana shetar ad mata tarshish. So the next thing that happens in the Megillah, the next clause in the Megillah, is that Achashverosh speaks to those who are close to him, and it lists the names of presumably ministers, Karshana Shetar ad Matzah Tarshish. Amar Rabbi Levi. Rabbi Levi said, Kol pasuk zeh al shum korbanot ne'amar. This whole pasuk was said al shum korbanot, sort of with korbanot in mind, or because of korbanot. And he's going to explain how each name actually represents a korban that used to be offered when the Beit HaMikdash was standing. So Karshana, Amru Malachei Hashari Lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the angels said before God, Ribono Shel Olam, Master of the universe, Klum hikrivu lefanecha karim b'nei shana kederech shehikrivu Yisrael lefanecha. Have they, meaning have these, supposed Chachamim, these ministers, have they ever sacrificed before you kfasim b'nei shana, right? Or it says karim b'nei shana, but two sheep a year old, the way that Yisrael did, like that's the type of sacrifice. Have these guys ever offered it to you? Sheitar, the name Sheitar indicates klum vikrivu lefanecha shtei turin. Have these people ever sacrificed before you two birds? Again, in the way that Bnei Israel did. Admata, klum banu lefanecha mizbeach adama. Have these people ever built for you an altar, right, a mizbeach out of adama? Again, the implication being the Jews did that for you. Tarshish, that name. Klum shimshu lefanecha b'bigdei kahuna. Have these people ever served you in the clothes of the priesthood? Dichtiv bahu, because it says about them, meaning about the priestly garments. Tarshish v'shoham v'yashveh. These are materials that it was made out of, and that the bigadim were made out of, and that's one of the materials. Meres, that name. Klum yirsu b'dam lefanecha. Have they kind of beaten blood before you or mixed blood before you? Apparently you had to mix the blood before you splattered it on the altar, otherwise it would congeal and not really splatter. Marsana, that name. Klum yirsu b'menachot lefanecha. Did they, again, mix or beat the flour offerings before you? Again, as the Jews did. Memuchan. Klum hichinu shulchan lefanecha. Have they prepared a table, right? The shulchan was part of the Beit HaMikdash also. Have these non-Jews ever prepared one before you? So according to Rabbi Levi, this whole list of names is meant to remind God that these are not the people who are really closest to Him, to God. Vayomer Memuchan, moving on in the pasuk, that Memuchan said, Tana Memuchan ze Haman. So it was taught, Memuchan is Haman. The Lama Nikra Shmo Memuchan. And why was his name called Memuchan if his name was really Haman? Shemuchan leporanut, because he's ready for bad things to happen to him, right? Rashi says he's eventually going to get hanged, and his very name indicates that he's set up for failure from the beginning. Amar Rav Kahana, Mikan shehedya kofetz barosh. From here we learn that a normal person, a regular guy, can jump to the front, because Memuchan is listed last among the sarim, among the ministers, but in the end, he becomes the most important among the sarim, at least for a while. Lihiyot kol ish sorer beveto. Moving on in the Megillah, this is the letter that Achashverosh sends out, that his advisors tell him to send out, again following the banishment of Vashti, that every man should be ruler in his house. Amar Rava said, Ilmalei grot harishonot lo nishteyer misonehen shel Yisrael saridu palit. If it weren't for these first letters, then not a single Jew would be left. So nehen shel Yisrael here is lashon saginahor. It's euphemistic, and it actually means the Jews themselves. It doesn't mean the Jews' enemies. So were it not for this first letter, no Jews would have been left, because Rashi explains, because this letter was so ridiculous and the Gemara is going to explain, this letter was so ridiculous that that way when they got future letters, they didn't act on them immediately. So the next letter that Achashverosh is going to send out is going to say, kill all the Jews, and they're like, whatever, this king just sends out random letters, he's ridiculous. Amrei, they said, right, meaning the people who got the letter said, Mahi deshadarlan liyot kol sorer beveto. What is this that he has sent to us, that every man should be ruler in his house? Pshita, this is so obvious. Afilo karcha bevete parshadacha lihave. Even a weaver in his own house, meaning even like the most important kind of guy, is considered like a sar, considered like a minister in his own home, and everybody knows that. So why would the king need to tell us that? Vayafken hamelech pikidim. Here's the next piece of pasuk. The king appointed officers. This is when he's finding a new wife. Amar Rav said, "My dichtiv kol arum yaseh b'dat, uksil yifrosh ivelat, So what is the meaning of this pasuk in Mishlei, which we're now going to apply, of course, to Megillat Esther? So it's this pasuk, which refers, of course, to an arum at the beginning, a clever person. So every clever person will do something with knowledge or with wisdom. Uksil yifroshi velet, and a ksil, a not very smart person, a foolish person, will do things with like in wickedness or in crooked ways. Oops, that's a question. Kol arum yaseh b'dat. Ze David. That's a reference to David. Dichtiv, as it says, Vayomru lo avadav yivikshu la'adoni hamelech na'ara b'tula. This happened with David, that they said he was cold all the time at night, and they said, let's find you a young virgin, and they do. He doesn't sleep with her, or he doesn't have sex with her, he does sleep with her. Kol man dehavale barta aita nihile. Everyone who had a daughter brought them to her. Right? That was the effect of the proclamation on David's behalf, that every person brought out their daughter as a candidate. Uksilia Froshidalet, the second part of this pasuk, Ze Achashverosh. That's a reference to Achashverosh. Tichtiv, because it says Vayavket HaMelech Pekidim, that the king appointed officers again to go out and get these girls. Kolman dehavile barta itzmura mine. So everyone who had a daughter would hide them from Achashverosh. It's the opposite. It's the opposite effect, because they knew that the king would sleep with every girl that he got. They knew that he would actually want to have sex with every girl that he got, so they hid their daughters. Ishihudi haya b'shushan habira, v'gomer ishimini. So this is again moving on in the Megillah. Famous pasuk because we recited it out loud. Ishihudi haya b'shushan habira v'shmo Mordechai ben Yair ben Shimi ben Kish ishimini. That's the description of Mordechai. So my ka'amar. Literally, what is it saying, or what is being said here? The Gemara wants to know how exactly this pasuk is functioning, what exactly it's doing. If it's coming to tell you about his relations, yichusa, like the word yichus in Yiddish, like if it just wants to tell you who he's related to, meaning the important person he's related to, he should relate and keep going until Binyamin, meaning if we would just want to say that he's Yemini, so we should like trace his lineage all the way back to Binyamin. That would be kind of a normal thing to do under these circumstances, but it doesn't do that. Ela Maishna Hani. Rather, what is different about these? Meaning, like, why does it mention these names and not go all the way back to Binyamin? Tana kulan al shmo nikru. They're all versions of his name, right? These are actually all these names listed are actually just different names for Mordechai. They're like nicknames for Mordechai. And here we go. Ben Yair. He's called Ben Yair. Ben Shehi'ir Einehem Shel Yisrael, because he's a son who illuminated the eyes of Israel. With his prayer. Ben Shimi, he's called Ben Shimi. Ben Sheshama El Tfilato. He's someone whose prayer was listened to. God listened to his prayer. Ben Kish, he's called Ben Kish. Shehi Kish Al Sha'arei Rachamim V'Niftechula. Because he sort of leaned on or knocked on the gates of mercy, and they were opened for him. So that's how each one of the names refers to Mordechai himself. Kari le Yehudi, he's called Yehudi, which we would translate as Jew. Alma mihuda ka'ati. Consequently, or it seems that he came from Yehuda. The Kari le Yemini, and he's also called Yemini. Alma mi Binyamin ka'ati. Therefore, he seems to have come from Binyamin. So, which is it? Was he from Judah or was he from Binyamin? Amar Rav Nachman. Nachman said, Mordechai muchtar b'ni muso haya. Mordechai was muchtar b'ni muso. He had a lot of different names, lots of different honorifics, And Yehudi also is like it's another way of referring to him in a nice way because, of course, the kingship comes from Yehuda. So it's just like a nice way to talk to him. Nimuso is like the word like polite. This is just a very polite and sort of honorable way to refer to him. Amar Rabba bar bar Chana, Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. So it was said in the name of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Aviv mi Binyamin, v'imo mi Yehuda. You could sort of have it both ways. His father was from Binyamin and his mother was from Yehuda. V'Rabbanan Amri, and the rabbi said, Mishpachot mikarotzo bezo. The families were kind of yelling at each other. They were fighting with each other. Mishpachat Yehuda omeret, the family of Judah was saying, right, that ancestry, Ana gerim demicheled Mordechai. We were the ones who caused Mordechai to be born. Maybe not that he literally came from us, but we were the ones who caused Mordechai to be born. Delokatle David Lashimi ben Gera, because David didn't kill Shimi ben Gera, and Mordechai is a descendant of Shimi, so by not killing Shimi, David, who's from Yehuda, caused Mordechai to be born. Mishpachat Binyamin Amra, and the family of Binyamin says, Minai Ka'ati. But like he descended from us, like he's actually from our family. Rava Amar, Rava said, Knesset Yisrael Amra le'idach gisa. Knesset Yisrael, the people of Israel, the nation of Israel, said it in another direction or from another perspective, from another way, meaning they're going to say it not as a praise, but more in a negative way. Re'uma asa liyehudi, umashilem liyamini. Behold what the Jew has done for us, or the Yehudi has done for us, and how a Benjaminite has repaid us, literally. So the Gemara is going to explain these phrases. Ma asali Yehudi, this idea of like, see what the Yehudi has done to me. Delo katle David l'shimi. Dicha led me name Mordechai. Demikne be Haman. So what was it that Yehuda did? David didn't kill Shimi, even though Shimi was Chayav Mita. And what that caused was that Mordechai was born, and Haman was jealous of him. And if it hadn't been for that, you wouldn't have had this whole mess of Purim to begin with, right? It all starts because Haman gets angry at Mordechai. Umashilam liyamini. And what is it that Benjamin did? What does Mashilam liyamini mean? Delo kadle Shaul agag di'ichele minei Haman dimitzar Yisrael. Shaul, who was from the tribe of Binyamin, didn't kill Agag, and Haman was born from him, and Haman brought trouble to Israel. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Rabbi Yochanan says, L'olami Binyamin ka'ati. No, he's actually for sure from Binyamin. Everyone agrees. Va'amai kari le'Yehudi, and why is he called Yehudi? Al shum shekafar b'avodah zarah. Because he rejected avodah zarah. Shekol ha'kofer b'avodah zarah nikra Yehudi. Because everyone who rejects avodah zarah is called Yemini, is called a Yehudi, someone from Judah or a Jew. Kidichtiv, as it says in Sefer Daniel, Iti gavrin Yehudayin v'gomer. So again, this pasuk is in Aramaic, but it is a pasuk. It just comes from Sefer Daniel, and it's these are Jewish men or men from Yehuda, and it's talking about Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, and they weren't actually all from the tribe of Yehuda, but they're referred to that way because they rejected Avodah Zarah. Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi, ki hava patach b'divrei hayamim, amar hachi. So when Shimon ben Pazi would start learning divrei hayamim, here's what he would, or start teaching divrei hayamim. Here's what he would say: Kol dvaracha achadhem, ve'anu yodin l'dorshan. All of your words are one, meaning everything that you wrote is sort of it's all one piece, and we have to explain it all we have to sort of darshan it all out. So here's the pasuk he would start with. V'ishto haYehudiya yalda et Yered avi Gedor ve'chever avi Socho ve'et Yekutiel avi Zanoach ve'ele bnei Batya bat Paro asher lakach Mered. Let me put that in yellow because that's a pasuk. So this is a pasuk from Divrei Hayamim describing genealogy, but you'll notice it says Ishto haYehudiya. Amai kari la Yehudiya. Why does it call her someone from Judah? Al shum shekafra be'avodah zarah, because she rejected avodah zarah. Dichtiv, as it says, Vatered bat Paro l'irchotz al hayor. Bat Paro went down to wash herself in the Yaor. So this is because at the end here we refer to Batya bat Paro. That Batya, which is the midrashic name for the daughter of Pharaoh, that she actually went down to wash herself at the in the Nile. This is a pasuk also. Ve'amar Rabbi Yochanan, she'ardzal lirchotz migulei beit aviha. She went down to wash herself from the, wash off the idol worship of her father's house, basically. And now they're going to ask, well, but are we really saying that, that this means that she had the right genealogy to sort of be the parent of Moshe? She's not actually the parent of Moshe. Oops. So, the Harabuye Rabite, but didn't she raise him? Meaning, she didn't actually give birth to Moshe, but she did raise him. But that's not the same as being his Jewish parents. Lamar lacha, this tells you, a verse that's sometimes, or a piece of Gemara that's sometimes quoted with regard to adoption. This teaches you that anyone who raises an orphan, a male or female orphan, in their home, it's as though the Torah considers them as though they gave birth. So that's why it's good that Moshe had a sort of descended from Yehuda mother, at least metaphorically. Yered ze Moshe, so Yered, who's referred to in the pasuk, right? Hayehudiya yalda Yered, that's Moshe. V'lama nikra shmo Yered. Why is he called Yered? She'arad lahem liYisrael man biyamav, because man came down in his days, right? He's called Yered because he's famous for bringing down the man, and Yered means to go down. Gedor shegadzar partzutehen shel Yisrael. And he's also referred to, that reference to Gedor in the verses is he's also referred to that way because it's like fenced in the behavior of Israel that sort of crossed boundaries. Like Pritzut is like licentiousness. So when they crossed boundaries, he put fences up. He sort of fixed it up for them. Chever, and he's also called Chever, shechiber et Yisrael la'avihen shebashamayim, because he connected. Right, lechaber means like to connect, so he connected the Jews to their Father in heaven. Socho, he's also called Socho, shena'asa lahem leYisrael kesukah. He was kind of like a sukkah. He protected Bnei Yisrael, and okay, Socho is not spelled exactly right, but it sounds like sukkah kind of, because in the pasuk it's spelled with a samach, not a sin. With a sin, not a samach. Yekutiel, shekavu Yisrael le'el biyamav, that the Jews kind of looked to or hoped for God in his days. Zanoach, and this name Zanoach, shehizniach avonotehen shel Yisrael, because he forgot or he neglected the sins of Israel. Avi, Avi, Avi. Avi, Avi, Avi. It says Avi 3 times in the pasuk. Av b'Torah, because he was a father, a sort of a parent in Torah. Av b'Chochmah, he was a parent in wisdom, and Av b'Neviut, and he was a parent in prophecy. He excelled in all these things. Ve'ela b'nei Batya, asher lakach Mered. And the pasuk goes on, right? These are Ela b'nei Batya asher lakach Mered, v'chi Mered shemo, and was Mered really the name of her husband? V'helo Kalev Shmo. Wasn't his name Kalev, because there's a tradition that it was Kalev who married the daughter of Pharaoh. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God said, Yavo Kalev shemarad be'etzat meraglim ve'yisad bat paro shemaridza begilulei beit aviha. God said, let Kalev come, who marad, who rebelled against the suggestion of the Miraglim, of the other spies, right? That's what he was famous for, standing up against the other spies. And let him marry the daughter of Pharaoh, who rebelled against the idol worship of her father's house. Okay, we'll stop there.